Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. It was a foggy morning in Charleston. The Magnolia and Company Cafe was already filled with busy customers. Among them, a calm, imposing black man entered, dressed in a simple coat and carrying a worn leather bag. His name was Marcus Turner, a decorated veteran recently returned from deployments in a conflict zone. His gait exuded quiet confidence, but he simply wanted to order a coffee before resuming his day. Behind the counter, Holly Simmons, a blonde waitress with a cold smile, scrutinized Marcus suspiciously as soon as he walked through the door. Her eyes narrowed and her voice became sharp. "Sorry, we don't serve that kind of customer here." Marcus, surprised but controlling his anger, replied in a calm voice. "I think you're mistaken. I'd just like a coffee, please." But Holly, blinded by her prejudices, picked up her phone and called the police. In her mind, she saw herself as a heroine protecting the cafe from a supposedly dangerous intruder. She was completely unaware that the man in front of her had risked his life for his country and had served honorably in the armed forces. A few minutes later, the sirens wailed in the street. Holly, triumphant, waited for Marcus to be humiliated, convinced that justice would be served, but she was far from suspecting that what she had unleashed would turn her life upside down and confront her with a truth she could never have imagined. A few minutes after Holly's call, 2 police cars pulled up in front of the cafe. The sirens stopped, leaving a heavy silence in the morning air. Marcus remained calm, his hands resting on his bag, watching the officers get out. "Good morning, gentlemen, what's going on?" he asked politely. Holly rushed towards them, exaggerating every gesture. "That man, he tried to come in and..." She hesitated, searching for her words. "He refuses to respect our rules. He has no business being here." The police officers, somewhat skeptical but obeying their instincts, approached Marcus. "Sir, you must follow us," said one of them in an authoritative tone. Marcus raised his hands calmly, but he sensed a strange tension in the air. His piercing gaze held no threat, but Holly and the police officers hadn't yet noticed. As they surrounded him, Marcus took a deep breath and simply said, "I am Marcus Turner, a decorated U.S. Armed Forces veteran. I have never disrespected anyone in my life. I am simply asking you to listen to me." A shocked silence fell over the trio. The police officers exchanged quick glances, while Holly felt a shiver run down her spine. She had never imagined that the man she was trying to humiliate was someone so respectable and courageous. Marcus then took out his wallet and showed his veteran's badge. The truth came out, he wasn't just an ordinary customer. The police officers, embarrassed and blushing with shame, realized they had been manipulated by Holly's fear and prejudice. Marcus, impassive but firm, added, "I haven't done anything wrong. But you've just created a situation you'll regret, Holly." Holly felt her arrogance dissolve into a mixture of shame and panic. She had just set off a chain of events that went far beyond a simple refused coffee. After Marcus's revelation, the atmosphere in the cafe became electric. Customers whispered amongst themselves, some pulling out their phones to film the scene. Holly, pale, cowered behind the counter, unable to formulate a believable excuse. The police officers, for their part, no longer knew what to do. One of them whispered, We should have checked before intervening." But Marcus, patient and dignified, placed a hand on his bag and said calmly, "Gentlemen, I am not trying to create a scandal. But be aware that this kind of prejudice can be very costly, both legally and morally." Holly, feeling the situation slipping completely out of her control, tried to defend herself. I was just thinking," her voice broke, "I wanted to protect the cafe." Marcus looked at her, his eyes serious but without hatred. "You have just triggered an incident that will attract the attention of the authorities. You didn't know who you were dealing with, but now everyone will know." In the following minutes, several customers posted the video of the incident on social media. Within hours, the scene had gone viral. Local media contacted the cafe, seeking details. The story of a waitress refusing to serve a black veteran quickly spread throughout the city. Holly then realized that her prejudices would cost her far more than a simple moment of shame. She risked professional, even legal, sanctions. Her superiors asked her to stay away while the cafe management tried to assess the extent of the damage to their image. Marcus, for his part, remained calm. He knew he had the upper hand, he was within his rights, his military service bolstered his credibility, and he had the moral support of the local community. But he wasn't there to humiliate Holly. He simply wanted justice and accountability. As the day wore on, Holly, sitting alone in the manager's office, felt for the first time a mixture of fear and genuine regret. She had never imagined that her racist act would be exposed, much less that it would jeopardize her career. Marcus, for his part, left the cafe with dignity, ready to decide on the next steps. Should he file a complaint, demand a public apology, or simply let karma take its course? The next day, Marcus and the waitress Holly's story made headlines in local newspapers and on social media. Hashtags denouncing racism in businesses circulated everywhere, hashtag justice for Marcus, hashtag no to racism, and hashtag veteran respect. Videos taken by customers had gone viral, showing Holly arrogantly calling the police while Marcus remained calm and dignified. Holly, who thought her actions would go unnoticed, found herself at the center of a media scandal. Online comments were merciless, and some customers canceled their reservations at the Magnolia and Company cafe. Even the cafe's management, embarrassed, announced they would investigate the waitress's behavior. Meanwhile, Marcus was contacted by veterans associations and media outlets who wanted to hear his story. He decided not to let the incident go unreported. "It's not just about being refused coffee," he said in an interview, "it's about respect and human dignity. Every act of racism, even a small one, has consequences." Holly, for her part, received an official call from the cafe manager. "Holly, your behavior is unacceptable. You are suspended until further notice. We must also inform the local authorities." The weight of responsibility and humiliation was beginning to crush her. She now saw the repercussions of her actions, not only on her career but also on her personal reputation. On the street, Marcus walked serenely, aware that social justice was unexpectedly taking its revenge. His calm and dignity, contrasting with Holly's past arrogance, caused even some of her former customers to begin reflecting on their own prejudices. The incident turned into a public lesson: a racist act, even if motivated by fear or ignorance, can have irreversible consequences when it clashes with the truth and courage of those one seeks to humiliate. Marcus knew that this victory was not just personal, it was symbolic, reminding everyone that dignity and respect are more powerful than arrogance and hatred. A few days after the incident, Holly was summoned to the police station to give her version of events. The officers, embarrassed but professional, questioned her at length. Every word she uttered seemed to underscore her guilt. Her racism and poor judgment were now officially documented. Meanwhile, the cafe management publicly announced Holly's permanent suspension, along with a formal apology to Marcus. The media picked up on this decision, turning the story into an example of social justice and professional responsibility. Marcus, true to his calm and thoughtful nature, chose not to seek personal revenge. He publicly declared, "I'm not trying to humiliate Holly. But it's essential that everyone understands that respect and dignity aren't optional. What you do to others always comes back to haunt you." Faced with the media coverage, Holly began to understand the magnitude of her mistakes. For the first time, she felt a true weight of shame and remorse. Her colleagues and family confronted her with the reality of her prejudices, and she was forced to reflect deeply on her actions. In the following weeks, Holly embarked on a process of redemption. She attended diversity and inclusion workshops and publicly committed to changing her behavior. Although her career in the coffee shop was no longer possible, she slowly began to rebuild her life, learning to acknowledge her mistakes and respect others without discrimination. Marcus, for his part, continued his life with dignity. The incident reinforced his reputation as a respected veteran and a man of principle. His composure in the face of injustice became an example to his community, showing that patience, dignity, and courage always triumph over hatred and arrogance. And so the story ended, an arrogant waitress confronted with the truth, a veteran honored by his dignity, and a clear lesson that racism, however slight, always ends up backfiring on the one who practices it. Karma, silent but inevitable, had done its justice.